Welcome to Removing Addiction and Healing Mental Health with Mike Carroll and Jess Gaddes. In weekly podcast episodes that will feature healers and experts in removing addiction and healing mental health. You'll also hear from lived experience advocates, revealing tips that have helped them to live their lives addiction-free and heal from co-occurring mental health issues. Now here's your host, MC Counselling's Mike Carroll, and your co-host, Jess Gaddes.
Hello there and welcome along to Removing Addiction and Healing Mental Health. We want you to be able to live your best life, and so when we say that, we want to give you the opportunity to do that by giving you lots of different lived experienced advocates, also professionals in the field, and give you some different ways about making your life the best, especially if addiction or mental health is an issue for you. I'm Mike Carroll, and we've got our co-host there as well, the gorgeous, the wonderful
Jess Gaddes. How you going, guys? I'm feeling a bit under the weather at the moment, so just bear with me.
That delay was perfect, and it's great to have you here, Jess. And of course, laughing in the background too, we can't leave that behind. Jayne and Ross Quick from Quick Results Training. Welcome along, hey!
Oh, thank you so much for having us.
We're
very excited to be here.
There we go. There's the laughter sound effects. Now, what's been really funny in the last week the last couple of weeks was I decided to get back into exercise after having my birthday and enjoying so much chocolate, which is my thing. And then I'm like, okay, if I don't get somebody to help me out or to be accountable, I'm not going to do it. So I decided to do my stories on MC Counselling, basically exercise accountability. And then Jayne and Ross decided to be part of it too and did their exercise accountability, which was really good. So we've been doing this in the past couple of weeks, which has been awesome because it keeps us going and it's great to look at each other's stories. And I first heard about you guys because you're in Australia too, and obviously we speak to people all over the world, which is awesome to have you guys in Australia. Jared from the Bipolar Bachelor podcast, and he's of course joined us on the show before, and he did a live as he actually recorded you guys. He's pretty cool like that, and he's got all this stuff going on. I'm very, very impressed. And I saw you guys. I'm like, oh my god, they sound like they're Aussies, and of course you guys are. There's a beautiful story behind how you guys met, how also before that it wasn't so great for you, Ross. So Jayne and Ross Quick from Quick Results Training, so I can say that's the important part today. I might get you guys to give us a bit of an introduction about you, and then we've got some questions, and we're going to talk a bit about medication today, I believe. There's the key to today.
Sure, thank you for that introduction already.
No worries.
A little bit about our business. I'm Jayne, and this is Ross, and we're the co-founders of Quick Results Training, which was established in 2020, so it's quite new for us. QRT provide online anxiety, depression and self-confidence coaching and exercise sessions for our members and all our clientele through Ross's personal struggles with anxiety, depression and psychosis, and through my holistic and supportive approach to his recovery. That has been the foundation of our business. Now we just assist others on their journey as well through fitness, wellbeing and mindfulness solutions, especially individuals who are struggling with stress, anxiety, and helping to improve their self-confidence and achieve physical, mental and emotional health.
Amazing. That's so cool. And when I was listening to the Bipolar Bachelor podcast, I can say it now, with Jared, there was a really interesting story. I mean, we can say interesting now, Ross, definitely not interesting for you at the time, extremely scary. Sure. When you were in Thailand, and can you tell us a bit about that story for us and fill us in?
Sure. Probably my psychosis first began for me was taking magic mushrooms on a boys' trip in Thailand, and I had no idea what psychosis was at that stage of my life. I think I was about 19 or 20 years old. And then, none of my friends knew what was going on, I suppose. And then I eventually still continued in my party ways. And as a young 20-year-old single male who was wanting to travel the world, wanted to experience different things and drink alcohol and take recreational drugs. These sort of things started to happen more and more to me, still not knowing what was happening. And then after living in London for a period of time and traveling through Europe and South America, I did another holiday through Spain, and my psychosis probably went on for about 3 or 4 days traveling through Spain. I just was not in touch with reality. I decided to check myself into a psych ward in Spain where no one spoke any English and everyone spoke Spanish. And I didn't speak any Spanish. So I thought I was stuck in this situation where no one would ever speak English to me ever again, and this internal kind of my interpretation of hell. And I would never come out of that situation. So that I stayed in hospital for about 4 or 5 days, and till my dad and my brother flew over from Australia to release me out of hospital and take me back to Australia. So it was, pretty terrifying. But now I'm doing really well. So
the irony is we're learning Spanish as well.
Yeah, we're starting to learn Spanish now. So that would have helped me 14 years ago.
Absolutely. Thank God for family though, right?
Oh, for sure. Like I wouldn't be where I am today without family and friends that have supported me. And I suppose that's why we created our business, to support others who might be going through a similar journey. And some people might not have family. So we wanted to create a business that would support them, especially
and don't necessarily understand mental health, I think, and people struggling as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Be able to, offer any advice or support.
Yeah, just going to say that's fantastic, because that is the model that a lot of people do miss, is that support unit. So you guys have created that through your business model.
Yeah, exactly. And we did find that a lot of our friends and family members that we know as well struggle, not necessarily to the extent that Ross went through with psychosis, but with other drug issues or just severe anxiety or depression, and just don't really have people to reach out who necessarily can understand what they're going to or relate to what they're going to. And I think that was a big thing with you, Ross, trying to talk to your psychiatrist at the time and saying, I just want to chat to someone who's been through this and come out the other end. And he was kind of saying, well, no one really wants to relive it. No one wants to go back there.
This is 14 years ago, I must say.
Yeah,
so, it wasn't talked about as much back then. And I'm sure there is a lot more of those services out there, or people that want to talk about it. But back then, 14 years ago, no one really wanted to relive those experiences. So, that's what I was told by my psychiatrists and psychologists. So it was really hard to find someone who could, I suppose, be a role model to me and tell me there was light at the end of the tunnel. And that's what we're trying to create now with our own business. That's amazing. How did you guys meet again? How did we meet? This sounds quite unprofessional. This is through, I was running group exercise sessions for friends. We didn't know it at the time, but we were being set up by our friends. So they were setting us up, and one time none of the friends showed up to the session. It was just a one-on-one session, and the rest is history. So.
Very professional.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's so cool. It's great hearing how people meet. I always love asking that question. And it was interesting because when you were overseas, and I'm going from when I was listening to Jared, and of course you're talking with Jared, and I put that up on my story last week in relation to you guys being on there with Jared, but it was like you're on anti-psych medication. Jess and I can both relate to anti-psych medication, and that was another part of like you guys creating such a bond, wasn't it? Because we're always told with the medical model of addiction that medication, it's all about medication. I think we're starting to move a little bit away from that and become a bit more holistic with medication. But like you were told you'd be on anti-psychs for the rest of your life. Yeah, that's correct. And it was like a security blanket for me. Just, having that in the back of my mind, like, all right, I'll be okay, because I was very stable on my medication. But there was still like a lot of,
I had low energy all the time. I found it really hard to keep my weight down while I was on medication, because there was a lot of weight gaining type medications with the antipsychotics and antidepressants and benzos for anxiety. So when I met Jayne, I'd obviously been told I'd be on medication for the rest of my life, but she'd just met me and like, you probably opened up my whole world to, it wouldn't have even crossed my mind to come off my medication at that stage of my life if I hadn't met Jayne. And if you wanted to...
Well, you've been on it for what, 7 years?
7 years of antipsychotics.
Antipsychotic?
Yeah. And I always would carry benzos just on me, because I just have it in my pocket just in case I had a panic attack. And even after coming off my medication, there was still probably a 6-month period of just keeping that in my pocket just in case something... I never used it, but just in case I had a panic attack, because I was so fearful of having psychosis or going back into that deep psychosis again. So, and
you weaned yourself off gradually. Like Ross had a meeting with his psychiatrist, and it was done through the medical model. Yeah. However, for me, noticing, I think it was just more of a lack of confidence with Ross. He would still have panic attacks, but I was trying to help introduce a more holistic approach, as you were saying, like through activating the parasympathetic nervous system and focusing on breath work and different box breathing, different techniques to help him when he was having those panic attacks. And Ross had gone back to uni to study, and little things would trigger, like just trying to get an assignment in on time, and we'd break it down and kind of detach from the stories the mind was creating of worst case scenario, which would activate all this adrenalized state. And it would bring it down, and just chatting to him saying, okay, what's the worst case scenario that could happen? And, and okay, well, you might not get the assignment in on time. That's okay. You've still got your health, you've still got your well-being, and just really breaking it down into small little steps for him, and things that were achievable as well. Okay, if you can do a few hours this day, that's great, and tick the box, and then you start to feel good about yourself as well, and really bring in meditations and mindfulness. And I think through that, over a course of months, a few months, Ross really started to regain his own confidence and not necessarily rely externally, and start to maybe move inwardly a little bit more and start to be a bit more in tune with his own body and feelings, and not just rely heavily on the medication and what he was being told. From the psychiatrist and psychologist. And during that whole time of taking medication, I was suffering from probably almost nightly bad dreams and night terrors as well. So that wasn't helping, sleeping next to Jayne. And, it was probably in your best interest to help me as well and assist me to come off. I didn't mind the screaming. All for your housemates waking up every night screaming. I was like, but they were, But that was another side effect, I guess, of the medication.
And that's an interesting point, isn't it? Because a side effect of the medication, it's like, I mean, you're both very fit, but it's like when you're on antidepressants, when you're on anti-psychs, as we were talking about before, we put weight on. It's like that's a depressing feeling anyway, and you're on antidepressants and you're on anti-psychs. And you would have been on for the rest of your life if you hadn't have taken some action. And what was that action, Ross, that you took to be able to wean yourself off them?
It was just a matter of asking my psychiatrist at the time, do you think like I could, is it the time of my life that I could possibly start to wean off my medication and start to slowly come off it? And he was like all for it. It was amazing. He hadn't really suggested it prior to me asking the question. So for me, it was, asking that question. And then he was like, let's go for it. And let's slowly just wean you off over a period of about 6 months. And, it started off with, take 3/4 of the tablet that you're currently on for maybe 2 weeks, and then half a tablet and so forth. But I'm sure each psychiatrist has their own method and plan to get you off your medication. But it was just simply asking the question at the time.
And that was at a time when you both were together. So Jayne, could help Ross with the mindfulness and some of the other things you were talking about before at the same time?
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, Ross, to his credit, and he doesn't often say this, but he, would spend hours actually learning that and doing it. It's very good. What's the saying? You can take a horse to the water, but you can't make it drink. Like Ross, I could say, oh, let's go do a meditation. But to his credit, Ross would journal. He did a lot of inner work within himself after he weaned off the medication to help with anxiety that was still there a little bit, to help with the occasional panic attacks, so that he had techniques and strategies in place for when they did occur, and he was really starting to calm himself down and center himself as a person. So you have done a lot of work, I think, outside of that. It's not just off the medication and, yeah, I'm great. It's been a very long healing journey, I think. And I mean, and we're still doing this and we're still learning and evolving and growing ourselves. But a lot of, I think, inner work, to Ross's credit, to help get himself to where he is now.
Yeah. Absolutely amazing. So like where you've come to today and to go through that process. There'll be lots of people listening that believe that antidepressants are something they need to be on for the rest of their life. What advice would you give to people that have been told that, and how would they be able to change? Obviously, we're talking about having a consult with your doctor. We're not talking about doing anything dramatically, but what advice could you give?
Simply do, like, look, if you think that's really serving you, and, you know, it's, I suppose it just all depends on if you're in a really acute state, and that's completely necessary, that you need to be 100% taking that medication. But if you've been on it for a period of time that you think, look, it might cross your mind one day that I should just ask the question to your psychiatrist, because they might not tell you. They might not say to you, let's come off your antidepressants. Let's try and get you off. Because at the end of the day, look, I could be wrong here, but they probably want a patient, and they want to continually see someone, and, you know, like that's their work. So if you don't ask the question, you'll never know. So you could, you know, go into your next psychiatrist appointment and just ask the question like I did. Do you think now's a good time to slowly wean off my medication?
I love it.
I would never do that. Like you said, Mike, I would never just try and do that by myself. It would be always, you know, with the assistance of the professionals.
Definitely. And like when you were coming off, it was great to have that support. But I'm wondering if when people are prescribed medication, if they're taught or shown or guided towards holistic means as well to help them out. As I said before, we're kind of moving towards that a bit more now. But it's like it's almost like a foreign part to a medical model, simply because. And as I said last week in a podcast, that, you know, will we ever have a time when we can actually help people to get better and then move on, not be in recovery? And this was a guy that I was talking to, a doctor in America, and he was saying that, well, no, it's not going to happen, because we basically need to be able to pay the pharmaceutical companies. Then the government gets the kickback from the pharmaceutical companies, which is why we want to always keep people in that medical model type of place. But it doesn't do, as human beings, we're not designed to have chemicals in our body. We should all be eating, you know, like plant-based foods, says the chocoholic, says the meat eater. But anyway, and like I have changed my milk, but I mean, that's the way it is. But I mean, that's one level. And then we go the next level with like medication. And I think that's a really interesting point to bring up, because it is like there is a reason that people have free services. We're talking all here in Australia. I know it's not the same in many countries of the world, but if people do want free help, that's the way that it's going to be. And in Australia at the moment, we've got a campaign, but it's all in regards to being with a medical model, and being with a medical model, even changing it, it's still going to be based on the same principles. And I think the more we can get out to the general public that, hey, ask your doctor, ask your GP about any medication, not just antidepressants or anti-psychs that you've been on for a long time, for a review, and we can help people. With what I've just said, and like with what you guys do, how does quick results training fit in with all of like the two of you together? Obviously it's your last name, it's quick results training. It sounds like, wow, these guys are going to help me out really quickly, and it's all going to happen. And I've actually got, it's really positive like energy when you say quick results training.
Yeah, well, it is a bit of, as you just alluded to there, it's a bit of a play on words. It's not about necessarily a quick process. But for us, I mean, you hit the nail on the head, and it was so evident, even just throughout this COVID period, that there was no public health officials coming out saying, make sure you exercise, make sure you go outside and get some vitamin D, just the things that eat healthily. Like, we had a lot of fast food shops opened and a lot of health foods of the smaller businesses were closed.
And the gyms are closed.
And the gyms were closed. And, okay, that's if the gyms need to be closed, try and go outside and go for a walk at least a day. Or, so they weren't really pushing that holistic. And I wonder what you were saying, touching on before with the pharmaceutical industry as well. There's no money in that. It's, it's just living that much more holistic lifestyle, but it's not going to create an income or revenue for certain companies. So when these companies necessarily prescribe that, sorry?
No, she
sorry, sorry, Jess. Prescribe the medication like Ross was told and like I know others have been told. It's a lifelong medication. It's not, okay, let's help you necessarily where you do need help from these drugs, and then let's work to wean you off and get you into that more natural way of living and, really in tune with your body and the healthy lifestyle. It's very much, okay, we'll prescribe you this and then stay on it. So the quick results training, that's our main focus, is about using that holistic approach to help you. And we've got clients that are on medication and clients that aren't on medication. And, it's whatever works for you, but also incorporating this other approach to your lifestyle as well. And using a holistic modality.
Which is absolutely beautiful. I know it sounds like I've been talking the whole way through. Poor Jess is coughing in the background. I am going to shut up now and let Jess come in because she's not coughing at this second.
Touching on COVID, I have tested positive yesterday to COVID. Right. So, and I feel that, I was just sitting here thinking I should go and walk around my backyard or get some sun or something. And, I need to get out of this lounge room after this podcast. But just in regards to like when you first got on the medication, did anyone, like I know it was quite some time ago, but even through your journey, did anyone besides your beautiful partner that suggested mindfulness and the holistic approach? Because I'm very much the same. If you need meds, then fantastic. But if you don't, there are other options. Did any health professionals have that discussion with you at all?
Thanks, Jess. Yeah, none of my psychiatrists, they're the ones who deal with the medication side of things. None of them suggested it. However, I had psychologists along the way that definitely taught me like progressive muscle relaxation techniques and meditations, and really taught me those holistic strategies of even just getting involved with guided meditations, because I'd never meditated before. So they were the ones who introduced me to meditation. And like that, out of all the health professionals, the psychologists and the counselors were the ones that really assisted me with those holistic strategies.
That's good.
Yeah.
And then Jayne helped me along the way with doing them a lot more once, because you grew up with that stuff, didn't you? So
we were doing little meditation since little ones, so that was our lifestyle, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's not common knowledge in the realm. Like you had to, I guess, unfortunately, get to an extreme psychotic state, and then to see a psychologist to actually learn about meditation. As Ross said, he didn't even know about it his whole life up until your 20s. Yeah.
And you just made a very, very valid point, which I'm trying to prove a theory at the moment about if you start things at a very young age, that can keep going throughout your life. You said just then that you've been doing meditation from a very, very young age. Earlier on, Ross said that him and his friends had no education around the drugs that they were taking in their early 20s and the effects that they would have had. And then also no support. Like, I was in a very similar situation where I had no education around drugs. I had no education around mental health. I didn't know that the drugs I was taking were going to send me into psychosis. I didn't know. None of my friends knew.
Yeah.
But then if you have that education and those tools early on in life, how, I guess, well balanced your life can be. And I love that you're, sharing your life with everyone else as well and saying, this is how it is kind of thing. I'm most probably not making a bit of sense at the moment.
No, you are.
This COVID's knocking with my head.
No, I completely agree.
And like we've got a young daughter who's 21 months old now, and that's what we're trying. Like, as soon as she's old enough to kind of comprehend meditation and these sort of holistic strategies, we'll be encouraging that sort of thing. She exercises around us in the lounge room like constantly. She was in Jayne's stomach, for 9 months and listening to my booming voice, running sessions over Zoom, and Jayne was getting involved, and then my booming voice actually puts her to sleep now. So I don't know what's going on there.
But you're right, it just becomes habitual as well over time, and learned behaviour. And kids are such sponges. What we're doing, conditioning her and indoctrinating her. So for us to try and be conscious of what we're doing with her, and so the way she'll grow up and her mindset, I guess. Yeah.
It's absolutely amazing. Go for it.
So I just love that we're having that conversation, because, even just in regards to the medical model, but also in regards to that learnt behaviour from a young age, maybe if we have that learnt behaviour early on, a lot more people won't need the medical model later on, because they will have a toolbox of things that will help them with their mental health, whether it be CBT, whether it be ACT, whether it be the breath hold, I can't remember the breath one. There's so many tools out there besides the medical model. But what you don't know, you don't know.
Exactly. Yep, I think you hit the nail on the head. So,
keep spreading your messages, definitely.
Oh, thank you.
And it's really interesting, isn't it? Because it's like we can become used to taking drugs at an earlier age and continue that for the rest of our lives. But things like meditation, to me, also was completely foreign. It wasn't until a friend who actually saw me in a really bad psychotic state, said to me, "Oh, you need to download this app." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, whatever." And because it was guided meditation, it was like, "Oh, okay, I could get into this." And it was Insight Timer. I don't know if you guys know about that one, but I think it's a really good one for. It's free too. There is obviously a paid version of it as well. But what it's good to do is to, like, when you've got no idea about meditation, you kind of think, "Oh, yeah, okay, I've heard about it enough now, but what do I do?" It's great because you can use guided meditations, and when I say that, it's like, I can't sleep. I've had drug addiction, so it's a guided meditation with somebody talking to help you to go to sleep, and it might be talking about addiction or talking about things that you need to be hearing, such as you're winding down now, you're about to go to sleep, and kind of directing you into that way. And then obviously there's many different meditations that are out these days, and so many apps as well. But what is so good about them is that it's so much easier, I think, Jayne, than back in the day. Do you think I'm right there?
100%. So much more readily available. And especially, the internet has given us that access nowadays that we can just jump on our phones or jump on our laptops and just, Google anything and find out, get a lot of free resources as well, which is so helpful.
And we have this thing that we're just supposed to get over it, especially as guys. And it's like, well, let's not just get over it, because we can't. That's why we're having drugs, or that's why we're doing whatever. But there are lots of other ways to go about it. And I think these days, especially in a post-COVID world, well, I suppose not post, but we're hoping to be a post-COVID world, that people are more into mental health. I know that, I've been busier than ever with inquiries and from guys, and in my directory of people that want help with mental health, or they're sick of their life the way it is and don't know how to direct it. I think it's a really good way of being able to do that. With your work, like you're based on the sunny coast in
Gold Coast.
I see. I was talking to someone yesterday and said the Gold Coast, and said it was the Sunshine Coast. But that's okay. Is your work? Is it all face to face, or do you do Zoom work as well?
It's all actually online.
Oh, great.
So,
perfect.
So we do live Zoom recordings and sessions. So we do, when Ross runs a workout or exercise, then we do a post Q&A discussion afterwards, and that's all done. And if people don't feel comfortable, they can turn their cameras off and just type us questions, and we either chat about Ross's experience or give them some techniques either to do with sleeping or anxiety or panic attacks. And but it's not face-to-face as such. And that was really heightened through COVID, that we found so many people in lockdown. And as you said, the backlog, I think, for psychologist is like 6 months in Australia. It's really tough, and people were just starting to question things in their life and struggling. And again, that was really heightened. So for us, being able to offer an online service, sorry if you can hear our daughter in the background.
Love it. This is real.
We felt that was really going to reach out and help a lot of people that necessarily weren't just in our catchment, just in our local area where we're living.
No, I totally resonate with that, because I was never going to be online. I was never going to be doing it like this. It was going to be beach counselling, like come to the beach because it's the perfect, people will actually open up quicker, instead of being in my office or being, where in anybody's professional suites. And then I'm like, oh, this will be good, and got it already. And then 4 days later, we're in lockdown in Victoria.
No.
And but you guys doing what you're doing, like, could we imagine doing this on Zoom, even 2 years ago, let alone 5 or 10 years ago,
Definitely not. Well, you've been a PT, haven't you, face-to-face?
Yeah.
Oh, all my experience prior to this was all face-to-face. So, it's been very, learning a lot of technology, and I think I'm getting better at it. But, we wouldn't have known about Zoom prior to COVID. And it's actually, if anything, it's, there's been a lot of benefits as well. It's like we're all connecting more, I suppose, even though it's through a device, we're still able to connect more. We're in the Gold Coast, you're at Sea Spray. Prior to COVID, this wouldn't have happened. So, there's definitely some positives to come out of it. That's for sure.
Oh, totally. And it's just really good to be able to connect. It's like now it doesn't matter where people are for whatever service you need or you require. And that's really good, I think, because it opens up more opportunities. And yes, it is, depending on where you live, and I don't want to put anyone else down or anything, but for the free 6, 10 or 20 sessions with Medicare with a mental health treatment plan, it is 6 to 12 months. And some areas have closed their books because they just, once they just can't actually help people. So that's really, really difficult to be able to deal with. And people are, having to go and pay private people to be, private as opposed to the public system to be able to get that help. That's why I think this podcast is really good. Obviously, it's our podcast, of course we think that, but because we're giving people some opportunities to look at different ways of being able to do things. And it's like we were doing a radio show here, because back in the day when I used to do it, it's like somebody would say, one of my co-hosts would say, I've got to go to the toilet. It's like, okay, I've got to talk until I get back. Poor Jess has been coughing there. Her camera's been off, but she is back now. So with some closing comments, because we need to wrap this up, because we've all got things we've got to rush to. But we wanted to get this out to you today. Do you have some comments for us, Jess, to wrap things up?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thanks for coming on, and I love that you guys are Aussies and that you're sharing your story. I also love that you're on the Gold Coast. I spent a bit of my 20s up on the Gold Coast, and also just proving that, we all fall into these worlds when we're in our early 20s, and doesn't mean we're bad people or anything like that. This sometimes happens to people. And you also made a comment that, your psych said that no one wants to relive that, and you are right. There are more of us coming forward, and, I don't mind reliving it. It is what it is. It happened. It shaped me who I am. And I really believe in that lived experience coach. And that's pretty much what you guys are doing, is being lived experience coaches. And, the best footy coaches out there build the best teams, right?
Yeah.
And I honestly believe lived experience coaches will be able to help people live their best lives and give them that motivation to want to get there. And that's what we're just going to keep striving for, all four of us, just keep striving to, show people that there is a better life, and you don't have to be on meds if you don't want to be. If you want to be, that's completely fine. But also just getting reassessed, and, if meds aren't working for you, then try something different. It's okay to try something different. Gold Coast needs you. People need you guys. So thank you for everything you're doing.
Thank you, Jess.
Thank you.
It's so funny there, Jess, because we know you're not feeling great, but then your internet cut out as you were talking, and so but we got what you said, but it's like, you poor thing. Thank you so much for being part of it, Jess. Quick results training, Jayne and Ross Quick, thank you for being part of our Removing Addiction and Healing Mental Health. Are there some closing words that you both would like to share with us today?
Yeah, just a big thank you, and well done to you both as well for this podcast and making it available and opening up the topic and discussion around it. I think, unfortunately, there still is a lot of stigma around mental health and addiction, and it's beautiful and brilliant what you guys are doing, just putting it out there and talking about your own stories as well. It's fantastic. So thank you.
Thank you very much. And you know what? Jess and I have never met, been able to give each other a big hug. We've never actually met in the flesh.
Really?
Oh, wow.
Oh, you wouldn't know.
So we're looking forward to that day.
Hopefully soon.
Yeah, that's right. And we'll put all your details as well so people can find you, Ross and Jayne Quick from Quick Results Training. This is Mike Carroll. It's Jess as well. We've been here with Removing Addiction and Healing Mental Health. You only have one life, so make it your best. We'll see you again next week. Bye for now.
This has been Removing Addiction and Improving Mental Health. Join Mike and Jess next week for another episode. Bye for now.